Hare Krishna, Preethi, Vilasini, Mataji, are you ready? Mataji, are you ready?
Thank you all so much for joining us today. So, we are continuing our series on Valmiki Ramayana, and we are continuing Aranya Kanda. We started this last week. We started the Aranya Kanda, and now we are proceeding further. Quickly do the figures, and then we'll move forward. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangvam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas on the call. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Khujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam. Valmikir Munisimhasya Kavitavanacharinaha Shranvan Rama Kathanadam Konayate Paramgatim. Vedavedye Paripumse Jate Dasharatatmaje Veda Pracheta Sadasit Sakshat Ramayanatmana Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashnam Kapishamakshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vekam Jitendriyam Bhaktimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanariyudamukyam Sri Ramadotam Shirasam Namami Anjaneya Madipatanalanam Kanjanadri Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Tarumulavasinam Bhavayami Pavamananitanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakhanjalim Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namatha Rakshasantakam Jaitrashrata Santrasa Dvantva Vidvamsanodhayaha Prabhavan Sitaya Devya Paramavyoma Bhaskaraha Jaya Jaya Mahavira Mahadhira Thaureya Devasura Samarasamaya Samudita Nikala Nirjana Nirdharita Niravadika Mahatmya Dashavadanathami Tadaiva Parishadabhyarti Tadhasharati Bhava Dinakara Kula Kamala Divakara. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we are continuing with Aranya Kanda, and I'll do a quick recap of whatever we have seen so far. So the Aranya Kanda begins with the entry of Lord Ramachandra into the forest of Dandakaranya. When he entered the forest of Dandakaranya, he saw many ashrams of different sages. And while he was entering the ashram of all these sages, Ramachandra very respectfully, along with Lakshman, they unstringed their bow and they met these sages with due respect, offering their obeisances to all of them. And while Ramachandra was entering the Dandakaranya forest, it looked like the beautiful moon that is dissipating the darkness in the forest. The demons were like the darkness that was engulfing these forests, and the presence of Lord Ramachandra was dissipating the effect of these terrible, terrible demons. When the sages of Dandakaranya saw this very beautiful form of the Lord, they were very attracted to him. And we all know later that these sages from the forest of Dandakaranya, they had an opportunity to participate in Krishna Leela as the gopis. So they are called as the Rishichari gopis. And when they were seeing the Lord with their eyes, they were drinking the beauty with their eyes. So the sages in different ashrams, they offered hospitality, they offered flowers, fruits, tubers, and so on. And they performed Sharanagati, or they surrendered unto the Lord and they told the Lord, you alone should protect us. We are living in your kingdom. Nagarasthova vanasthova tvamno raja janishwaraha. Whether you are in the forest or you are in the city, you are always our king. So you have to give us protection. So after meeting the sages, he proceeded further and we see the entry of the demon Viradha. We also saw how this Viradha was, he was looking terrible. And then at one point, he took away Vaidehi, he took away Sita and Rama and Lakshman, who were very struck with grief. They were attacking this demon in various ways. And finally, at one point, the demon put down Sita and he started fighting with Ram and Lakshman. And then he carried away Ram and Lakshman with his two hands. And eventually, Ram and Lakshman, they cut off his arms. And then the demon also mentioned that he cannot be killed by any arrows. And he revealed the fact that he can only be buried and killed. And Ramachandra, of course, he asks Lakshman to dig a pit. And finally, the demon is buried and he is killed. But before he dies, he also understands that this is none other than Dasharath Ram, and it was predicted that he would be delivered from his curse the minute Dasharath Ram actually meets him. How does he realize that? When Lord Ramachandra pressed his throat with his lotus feet, pressed the demon's throat with his lotus feet. At that time, the long lost memory of this personality dawned upon him. And actually, he was a great personality by the name Tumburu. And because of a curse of Kuvera, he was unfortunately in this demoniac body. So he remembered that actually the relief for this curse would be when Lord Ram comes and buries him, and then he tells Ramachandra, and he also does service by speaking. He tells Ramachandra to proceed to the ashram of Sharabhanga. So first Ramachandra goes to the ashram of Sharabhanga, and we see when Ramachandra was walking through when he was nearing the ashram of Sharabhanga itself, he could see Indra's chariot, the chariot yoked with the green horse, according to some commentators, and according to some other commentators, it is a special variety of horse called as the Hari horses, which have a golden coat and golden hair, golden mane. But anyway, these horses are considered as the mark of identity of Indra. So Ramachandra could immediately identify that. But then what happened? Indra went and he told Sharabhanga, you have done enough austerities, I can take you to Satyaloka. But Sharabhanga said, no, I don't want to come to Satyaloka. I have some better opportunities. So he was waiting for Lord Ramachandra to come. So when Ramachandra questions Sharabhanga tells this and he says, I was just waiting to serve you. And I know that is the perfection of life. So after he serves Lord Ramachandra, Sharabhanga, he attains perfection and he goes back to Godhead. Then he directs Ramachandra to go further and meet the sage Sutikshana. But before he goes and meets the sage Sutikshana, he meets many, many other sages, varieties of sages like the Valakilyas, the Vaikhanasas, and then the different sages who perform various kinds of austerities, all the different austerities we went through in our previous class. So all of them, they were also very, very grateful that Lord Ramachandra had come into the forest, and they request Rama that they are being tormented by many demons. Many ghastly demons are there in the forest, and they are constantly troubling these sages. So the sages said that right from this area till Pampa Sarovar, this area is filled with so many demons, and we are not able to tolerate the injustice that is being done to us. So therefore, we present ourselves in front of you. You are our protector, and please protect us from all these Rakshasas. Please safeguard us. So that was also the continuation of the Sharanagati of the sages. So like this, the sages, all of them, each one of these sages, they performed Sharanagati, and they directed the path to Sutikshana's ashram. So when Lord Ramachandra went to Sutikshana's ashram, we say it's a very, very beautiful reception. Say Sutikshana was also invited by Indra to go to Satyaloka, and Sutikshana too refused that invitation. And he said, "What is this Devaloka? I don't want Devaloka. I want that topmost loka, the Tripad Vibhuti. And I know that you yourself are coming here, and you are the only one who can award that. So I was waiting for your darshan, and I was waiting for an opportunity to serve you." But at this point in time, Sutikshana, he welcomes him, and he decides to stay back. Sutikshana doesn't go back to Godhead immediately, because he serves Lord Ramachandra for a very long time. Because when Rama was in the forest, he would go to different sages' ashram, and from time to time, he would change his location. But Sutikshana knew that Ramachandra would go to different places and come back. So Sutikshana didn't go back to Godhead right away, like Sharabhanga. So he stayed back, and one thing we learned from Sutikshana's episode is that, yes, he did not offer the fruits and roots immediately for the sunset to complete, and then he offered those fruits and roots, and we discussed a little bit about that. Okay. Then Ram takes leave of Sutikshan, and he moves further. And at that time, we saw Sita's advice. That was an interesting episode. Sita Devi, she was simply asking Ram, "Why is it that you're holding this bow and arrow? It's not a great idea to take the bow and arrow inside the forest, because we are here to give protection. And unless we are attacked or we have some previous enmity with some demons, it is not a good idea to go and eliminate all the demons." So like that, she talks, and she tells the story of a sage who was given a sword by Indra, and how just keeping that sword, his mind got diverted so much that he ended up going to a hellish condition. But then Ramachandra, he explains, "Sita, you speak very nicely, but I have given promise to the sages." And he speaks a very famous verse, "Api aham jivitam jahyam tvam va site sa lakshmanam na tu pratignyam samshrutya brahmanebhyo viseshata." I can forsake anybody. I can forsake you. I can forsake my life. I can forsake Lakshman, but I will never give up on my devotee. Name bhakta pranashyati. Right? So Krishna also says that in multiple places. I may forsake anybody, but I will never ever give up my devotee. We see this as a repeated theme even in the Bhagavatam in various places, while glorifying Uddhava, while glorifying Prahlad Maharaj, like that in different situations throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna goes on saying this: I can give up myself. I mean, I can give up my status, whatever. I can give up my consort, the goddess of fortune. I will even give up Adisesh. I will give up everybody, but I will never ever give up my devotee. A devotee who says, "I am yours," is always mine. So Ramachandra, he says that, and he says, "These sages, they came and they surrendered unto me. How can I give them up? Anyone who says, 'I am yours,' I will never give up on them. So I will give protection to the sages." And Sita was happy. And we see from the commentaries that actually Sita was just testing Ram to see how firm, how determined he was in getting rid of this demons, because she also desires protection for the sages. Then they moved on to the forest, and they looked like the Pranavakara, Omkara. And we saw a little bit about that as per the commentaries. And then they walked further, and they came to this place where they were hearing very nice music from within the water. And Ramchandra was very curious. Hey, what's this beautiful music that is coming out from the water? So he asks the sage, Dharmabhrata, who's sitting nearby. He goes and he asks the sage, tell me what's happening. Why is this and where is this music coming from? That is when the sage Dharmabhrata, he tells that it is actually coming from another sage who was performing austerities by the name Mandakarani. But however, the problem there was he was performing austerities for karma, meaning for in the path of karma yoga. He was not dedicating the fruits of his activities like Sutikshana and Sharabhanga unto the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. He was doing austerities for enjoyment, pretty much, with a hidden agenda, right? So what happened? As a result, he was, of course, diverted. And then he was diverted by 5 apsaras. And then he married those 5 apsaras. And he's enjoying very nicely in the waters with the 5 apsaras. And the song, I mean, the beautiful notes of music that you hear is from the tinkling of their ankle bells and the musical instruments that he's playing and enjoying. So we heard about that. That is an example of sages performing austerities without dedicating the fruits to Lord Ramchandra. Whereas the previous sages, in every episode, we were seeing that they were telling we have so many austerities. Even Indra is inviting us, but then we don't want to have heavenly enjoyment. That's not our goal. We want to offer everything at your lotus feet. So that is perfection. Nishkama karma yoga, right? So they were performing bhakti and nishkama karma. But here's a kama karma and they perform. What is the result? That is mentioned by the episode of Sage Mandakarani. Then he goes back to Sutikshna ashram. So Ramachandra, he stayed for nearly 10 months in some place. Elsewhere, he stayed for 1 year. Somewhere else, he stayed for 4 months or 5 months, 6 months. Like that in different sages' ashram, he was going around in the forest. And finally, he comes back to Sutikshna ashram. And remember, Sutikshna did not go back, right? He was waiting because he was there to serve Lord Ram. Neither did he want to go to heavenly planet, nor did he want to go to Satyaloka. All that he wanted to do was stay there and serve Lord Ram. Just like Shabari, we will see later. She was also staying back just because she wanted to serve Lord Ram. So there were many great personalities like that. And Ramachandra, he goes and he meets Sutikshna again. And then one day he tells the sage Sutikshna that I've always heard about the narratives of sage Agastya. And I know Sage Agastya also lives in one of these forests, and I'm very eager to go and meet him. We want to go and we want to worship him along with my brother and my wife. And we stopped there in the previous class. So from this class onwards, we will move on. We'll see how Lord Ramachandra meets Sage Agastya, and we'll move forward and see the suggestion that Sage Agastya gave them to move on to Panchavati. And staying there in Panchavati, we have the famous episode of Shurpanaka. Not famous, very bad, a notorious episode of Shurpanaka, which we will see today. Okay, we will just see till the entry of Shurpanaka because she is our favorite character. And today we will give a glimpse of Shurpanaka to everyone. Okay, so let's go ahead with Lord Ramachandra to Agastya Ashram. So when Ramachandra expressed his desire that he wanted to see sage Agastya, immediately Sutikshana told Ramachandra that even I wanted to give this suggestion to you. Even I wanted you to go and approach Agastya along with Lakshman and Sita. I'll tell you the way to go there. 4 yojanas from this hermitage, if you move southward, you will find the hermitage of sage Agastya's brother. The name of Agastya's brother is Sudarshana. That is his name. But he is famously known as the brother of Agastya. But he has a name. His name is Sudarshana. So first, as Sutikshana says, that you go southward 4 yojanas, you'll find the hermitage of Sudarshana, and it will be in a very beautiful forest. There'll be many wildflowers and fruits and many peppers, and it'll be look very, very beautiful. There'll be lakes, ponds, and once you see that beautiful environment, you can understand that the ashram of sage Agastya's brother has already come. You stay with him for some time, and then you move 1 yojana beyond, again in the southern direction, and finally you will find sage Agastya's ashram. So he tells him first meet sage Sudarshan, and then you go and meet sage Agastya. So then Ramachandra, he receives the directions from Sutikshana, and he's ready to move towards the ashram of Sage Agastya. So they continue to journey like this. They just start walking southward, and then they reach a very beautiful place filled with lakes and ponds and beautiful flowering trees, and they immediately understand that this is the exact region that Sutikshana had mentioned, and this should be the location of Agastya's brother's ashram. So he tells Lakshman, see how thousands of trees are bowing down with the weight of flowers and fruits in the pathway. Understanding this itself, I can see that a very pious personality is staying nearby. And do you get the smell of the pippali fruits that are growing here? So this forest is definitely very, very rich in fruits and flowers, and we can see that it is a very pious area. Srila Prabhupada also, when in a couple of places, he mentions about fruit-laden trees. I can show those quotes later, where he tells that when fruits and flowers are not coming from these different trees just, what we get here are mostly pine trees, right? Where you just have pollen. That's the only thing you get. You don't see nice tropical trees with fruits and flowers. He calls them Papa Yoni. Generally, that is what is mentioned. When the trees are not giving you enough sufficient produce, fruits, flowers, and like some useful benefit, they are considered Papa Yoni. But if you can see that the fruits and flowers are like very nicely growing, and they are they look very nice, and they are giving nice fruits and flowers, then you can understand that it is a very pious area. So here we see that the hermitage in the middle of the forest was very, very beautiful. And immediately Ramchandra told Lakshman, it appears that we are nearing Sudarshana's ashram. And when they move forward, they see smoke coming out from one particular hermitage. So as they see the smoke, they follow the smoke because they understand that sages are performing austerities of nice fire sacrifices. So they go and they collect fruits and flowers because they're going to visit a sage. And while they are proceeding towards the ashram of Sudarshana, at that time, Lakshmana, while he's talking to Ramchandra, while he's talking to Lakshman, he also tells the story of the greatness of sage Agastya. He tells Lakshman, we are soon going to reach the abode of Sudarshan. From there, we will also see Agastya. Agastya's glories are unimaginable. And then he tells the story of Vatapi and Ilvala. This is a story you all must have heard in your childhood. Very well-known story of sage Agastya. The minute we hear Agastya, many little stories come to our mind. And two of these stories, which are famously said, are there in the Ramayana itself. So, and it was spoken by Lord Ramachandra in the Ramayana. So Ramachandra, he tells Lakshman, once upon a time, there were two demons by the name Vatapi and Ilvala. They were brothers. But they used to be Brahmin killers. That is, they used to be killers of sages. That is what they used to do. Most Rakshasas are like that. So what they would do is, disguising as Brahmanas, they would act like as if they are performing the Shraddha ceremony for their ancestors. And in the guise of performing the ceremony, they would cook meat. How would they cook meat? We are talking about the meat of a ram. A ram is like a sheep or a goat, goat variety. Like you've heard the word mesh, right? Mesha. That is a ram. So Ilvala would make his brother Vatapi into a ram, and he would cook the meat of the ram, and he would offer it to the sages who are coming to honor the offerings in the Shraddha. In earlier times, for the Shraddha ceremony, meat was allowed. There was a tradition to offer meat, but in the age of Kali, if you read what is written in Srimad Bhagavatam and in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in many scriptures, we see in the age of Kali, certain things are forbidden. If you remember certain things, like one of the things that is mentioned is that offering meat is forbidden in the age of Kali for Shraddha ceremonies. But in those days it was allowed. So he used to cook his brother Vatapi into a perfect ram, cooked delicious food. He would offer it to Brahmanas. And then when the Brahmanas are honoring it, he would call out to his brother, and his brother, who was in the form of a meat inside, he would come out tearing the bodies of these Brahmanas. In this way, these guise changing Rakshasas who would take the form of Brahmanas, they had killed many sages in the nearby area, acting like as if they are performing a Shraddha ceremony. So that the demigods, seeing that all the sages were getting destroyed like this, they prayed to Agastya. They requested Agastya, you are very intelligent. So you put an end to this nonsense that is happening. So Agastya, by his own will, he goes to this place where Ilvala and Vatapi were hosting people. So he goes and he presents himself in front of Ilvala, and Ilvala, he invites him to dine because it is some ceremony, some Shraddha offering, and he calls Agastya to come and eat. And he presents a great feast, and he has the cooked meat of the brother ram, the brother ram, Vatapi. And when Agastya is just eating Vatapi, and he has taken Vatapi inside, at that time, this Ilvala, he calls out, "Oh, Vatapi, come out." Tear open his stomach and come out. But then what happens? You all know the story already, of course. Agastya says, Maya Jeernasya Rakshasa, Vatapi Jeerno Bhava. So he tells Vatapi, get digested. So he doesn't allow Vatapi to stay there and come out. He digests Vatapi immediately, and Vatapi is killed within the stomach of Agastya. So he tells Ilvala, what are you talking about? How can this Vatapi come out when he's already digested? So like that, Vatapi gets destroyed. So the story is being told by Ramachandra to Lakshman. And then he also continues to tell more stories about Agastya. He says the meaning of Agastya is actually the one who stopped the hill. Aga. Aga means mountain, not Asura. That is different. Aghasur is the snake, the sinful snake. But Aga, small ga, that is mountain. Sometimes it's also, there are many meanings to Aga. One of the meanings is mountain. The mountain stopper, he's Agastya. So before he tells that story of Agastya, first they reach the hermitage of the sage Sudarshana. Rama and Lakshman, they go, they worship. It's already sunset, so they do their Sandhya Vandana and all that. And then they greet the sage. The sage calls them inside. They eat the dinner along with the sage. And the next day morning, they proceed. The next day morning, the Sudarshan, he tells Rama Lakshman that you go again southward according to the path that was directed to you by Sutikshana. And finally, you will find the ashram of my brother, who is the famous Agastya. So Ramachandra, he walks for some distance, and then he looks at the beautiful tree leaves, and he sees birds and animals that are very happy and well nourished. And he sees beautiful trees near the hermitages, and he understands that this is the place where the ashram of Agastya is. There also they discuss the story of Agastya who stops the mountain. Like I mentioned, Agastya. He stopped. So this is the story of Agastya stopping the mountain. All of you know the Vindhya mountains. As much as the Himalayas is very famous, similarly the Vindhya is also very famous. So there are many stories of Vindhya feeling jealous of Himalaya. One of the stories is how Radharani is born, right? You all know that. The other story is that Vindhya Parvat was thinking, oh, Himalaya is so high, and Himalaya is able to greet the sun. Even I want to become so tall, and I want to compete with the Himalayas. So Vindhya thinks like that, and Vindhya is ready to grow. So the Parvat starts growing so much that it is going to go, and it is going to grow and almost reach the sun. So that is when, again, the demigods, they are all very concerned because it's not going to be good for the Vindhyas inappropriately to become so big. So they seek the help of Agastya. And Agastya, he's very intelligent. He's a very tiny sage. He's a dwarfish sage, but he's full of intellect. Okay. So now Agastya, along with his wife Lopamudra, they begin to proceed. They have a plan in mind, and they go towards Mount Vindhya. And Agastya, he tells Mount Vindhya that I'm a very old man. And look, I'm very short. At the same time, I'm very old. It is very difficult for me to cross over the mountain and go on to the other side. I want to go to the south. It is very hard for me. So can you be a little compassionate towards me? And can you reduce your height, please? I will cross over you and then you stay like that till I come back. I'm going to go back to the north. But till then, why don't you just stay in that size so that I can cross back over you and go back to the north? So this was the plan that Agastya had, and he goes and tells Vindhya, and Vindhya stops and she shortens, and then Agastya crosses over and he goes to the south and he never returns to the north. So till this day, Agastya is known to live in the south, right? So there are so many local traditions where Agastya has nourished a lot of south of India. So he stays there and he's gone across the other side of India. So this is the story that Ramachandra also tells his brother, and then they move further and finally they see the beautiful ashram of Agastya. So when they see the ashram of Agastya, Ramachandra tells Lakshman, actually, I want to go and worship the sage Agastya, but go and tell him, you first go, take permission, tell him that myself and Sita. So usually so far, whenever Ram, Lakshman and Sita would go to any ashram, meet any sage, they would always unstring their bow and the three of them used to go together mostly. But at this point in time, we have Ram telling Lakshman that you go and make this proposal, go and tell that I have come and let him know, then I will come. So that's why the commentators, they mention that this is supposed to be a turning point because it was an information that Ramachandra was giving through Lakshman to Agastya that you have been waiting for the destruction of the demons, because only after this, actually, Ramchandra will encounter Kharadushan. This is after meeting sage Agastya. So this was almost like a turning point of Ramachandra's stay in the forest of Dandakaranya. So here Rama is kind of giving the message through Lakshman that the Karta, the one who's going to eliminate all the demons, and the instrument for the elimination have come. So you please give your blessings, give your permission so that we can come, we can take your blessings and we can execute the activity. So who's the instrument? The instrument is Sita. Sita is the instrument because through Sita only Ramachandra goes and he kills all these demons every time, but Sita is an instrument, especially with respect to killing of Ravana. We see that Sita was used as an instrument and then Ramachandra goes and kills Ravana. So the starting of the battle between the Lord and the demons begins right after Agastya's ashram. So this is considered very important. And at this point, indirectly, Ramachandra, he's telling Lakshman, go and give the news that the time has come. And if he says, okay, we can enter the ashram and we can take further directions from him. Now, it was also important for Ramchandra to take some more things from Agastya before he could proceed into the forest. And let's see what that was. So anyhow, Lakshman, he enters the hermitage and he meets one of the disciples of Agastya and he introduces himself to the disciple. Lakshman says, there is a king by the name Dasharath in the Ikshvaku dynasty, and the eldest son is Rama, and I am his second son. Rama has arrived with his wife Sita, and I have also come. I'm very, very loyal and dedicated to my brother. You could have heard about us, and we have entered this forest. And please let Agastya know that the three of us have come, and we are waiting for Agastya's permission to see him. Okay. So then Agastya, he's met, this disciple, he goes and he talks to Agastya and he tells Agastya that Rama, Lakshman and Sita, they are here and they have not entered this ashram precincts still because they are waiting for your permission. And Agastya says, "Oh, what's making you wait? What's making you think that they have to wait? Ask them to come immediately." So the disciple, he runs out and he tells Lakshman, "Where is Rama? Please ask them to come immediately." So then Ramachandra, Sita, they enter the ashram area. And when they are entering the ashram area, in the front part of the ashram, they see so many fire sacrifices that are happening by all these disciples. And each of these yajna kundas are meant for giving oblations to different demigods. So there is the worship of Rudra, there is worship of Vishnu, Indra, Vishwa, Bhaga, Kubera, Vidhata, Dhata, Swayambhuva, Manu, Vayudev, Varunadev, the Gayatri, Adisesha, Garuda, so many, Kartikeya, like that, all the demigods. Demigods and gods, of course, the Supreme Lord is also worshipped, Vishnu is also worshipped. There is Dharmaraj and so many other different deities are invoked, and they were worshipped in the form of worshipping them in yajnas. So Ramachandra was seeing all of these different ceremonies that were being performed. And finally, Agastya, because he told Ramchandra, Lakshman, and Sita to come quickly. So he goes running out. He goes out quickly to receive Ram, who's just entering this place. And when Rama sees Lakshman and Agastya, Ram tells Lakshman, "See, this is Agastya." You can imagine he's just so resplendent. And the reason he's so resplendent and so divine is because of all the austerities that he has been performing. He's got a sun-like radiance. So he glorifies Agastya, and immediately Ram and Lakshman, they fall at the feet of Agastya and they touch him very, very reverentially. And then Agastya invites them inside. He offers seed, water, and so on. And then they begin to talk to each other in a very nice way of exchanging pleasantries. The way he talks, the way he welcomes, Ramachandra has actually mentioned here. This is a beautiful verse of him welcoming Lord Ramachandra. He says, "Raja sarvasya lokasya dharmachari maharata पूजनीय च मान्यः च भवान् प्राप्त priya atithi." So he welcomes him. He says, "Rajyasya sarvasya lokasya." You are the one who is ruling this entire world. Sarvalokasya Rajasu, the one who rules all the three worlds. It is actually Vishnu. So Agastya is identifying that this Ramachandra is non-different from Vishnu. He calls him Maharataha. Maharataha means, of course, the obvious meaning is great charioteer. But what is he doing driving this chariot? He is driving the chariot for all the living entities so that he can take all the living entities out of the circle of birth and death, out of the cycle of birth and death. So that is the Supreme Lord who is taking out. He's a Maharatha. He's driving the chariot for all the souls so that all the souls can get out of the cycle of birth and death. He says, Pujaniya, meaning you're most worshipable. Who is most worshipable than the Supreme Lord? And he says, Manyaha, but you are worshipable by the people who are aspiring liberation. You are the Supreme Lord, you're Mukunda, you're the one who can give liberation. So you are worshipped by all the respectable people who are aspiring for liberation. And he thinks about his own fortune. Cha bhavan praptaha priya atithi. He says, I am so fortunate that I have received you as my guest, my priya atithi. What more do I need? So like that, he thinks, oh, the Supreme Lord himself has come here. What more do I need in my life? So like that, he glorifies Ramachandra and he welcomes him. And he, of course, he offers seed, water, fruits, tubers, flowers, and so on, according to the custom. And he worships the Lord. And the Lord also worships the Brahmana. Of course, they exchange pleasantries and all that. Now, there is a very important thing that happens. Why Sage Agastya's ashram at this point was important? What is Ramachandra going to receive? At this point, sage Agastya, he gives a Vishnu Dhanush to Ramachandra. He goes inside and he presents the Vishnu Dhanush to Lord Ramachandra. Now let me ask you all a question. Did Ram receive the Vishnu Dhanush earlier? Anybody?
Yeah, Parshuram gave, right? After that Shiv Dhanush.
Parshuram gave the Vishnu Dhanush.
Yeah.
Yeah, then what happened?
But at that time, I think so, he gave it to Varun Dev.
Ah, yes, Mataji. You are very, very sharp. Yes. So that Vishnu Dhanush was given to Varuna Dev. Varuna Dev took it and disappeared, right? Now that Varuna Dev, he handed it over to Agastya. The reason Ram did not hold on to the Vishnu Dhanush is because he was just getting married and he wanted to go and enjoy his life in Ayodhya and then come to the forest. Only after he enters the forest, he meets the sages. After the sages Sharanagati and all that, he would be encountering Karadhushan and all these demons. So till then, he did not require the Vishnu Dhanush. So what Varunadev did is he gave the Vishnu Dhanush in the custody of Agastya, and now it was important for Ramachandra to stop by at Agastya ashram. That's why sometime back he was inquiring, I have heard about Sage Agastya, I've been longing to see him. And then Sutikshna says, even I wanted to tell you that you should go and see him. All this is because he can actually start executing the request of all the sages, and he can take care of these demons. So at that time, he receives the Vishnu Dhanush again, and this Vishnu Dhanush is very, very beautifully decorated with gold and diamonds. And of course, it was created by Vishwakarma himself. He designed the bow. And not only that, he also gave him a quiver of inextinguishable arrows along with the Vishnu Dhanush. So he also gave a sheath that is like a shield and a sheath and which is covered with gold, and that was presented by Indra. So all this was given to Lord Ramachandra. Even during the war, Agastya will appear. Something up from Agastya we will get. Okay, during the war with Ravana. But anyway, all this was presented to Lord Ramachandra, and Agastya, he tells Rama, I'm giving all of this, and I already know the present, past, and future. Agastya says, I know why you have come here. I know the past, present, and future, and this will be of great help for you. So you please take this. And then Agastya, he glorifies Rama and Sita, and especially he glorifies Sita in various ways. He says, you have such a chaste wife. How many of them have such a wonderful wife? The way Sita is with you, it is so amazing. She takes delight in the forest. It is very difficult for a princess to stay outside the kingdom, outside the luxuries of the kingdom. But she is taking delight in the forest. So she has done something that is impossible, and she's following you in the forest. So he is really impressed with Sita, and he gives profuse blessings. He says, Sita is so exemplary, like Arundhati. So immediately Ramachandra, after hearing all these glorification and all these words of appreciation, he folds his palms and he thanks the sage for all the blessings that the sage gave. And he tells Sage Agastya, initially when he was going to this area, he was thinking he will stay in and around the area of Sage Agastya. That was his original plan, Lord Ramachandra. But then Sage Agastya himself indicated that if you move further, it will be better for you. The reason why Sage Agastya also directs Ramachandra to move further is because in the presence of these people, so far, the demons did not show up. Okay. Why I say that is because Ramachandra lived in the forest so far for 10 full years, and he has not encountered Karadushanadi demons. Of course, he has encountered Viradha, he did encounter some other demons, but he still didn't encounter Karadushanadi demons, the demons who are troubling the sages. So he had, because the demons did not come there for 10 years, Ramachandra decided that I will go further and I will go to the place where the demons are. At this point, Rama asks Agastya, tell me a good place where we can go. so that we can live for the rest of the time during our exile. So he tells, show us a place where there is water and we can get some fruits and other things, and we can stay comfortably for the next 3 years. So at that time, Agastya, he says there is a very prosperous place called as Panchavati, which is about 2 yojanas from here. Which is about 2 yojanas from here. And if you go that, you will get abundant water, fruits, and it is that area is decorated with many nice, sweet animals like deers and so on. So you proceed to Panchavati, and there you will live very, very happily. And Agastya again assures him, I know why you should go there, because Agastya has seen the future. So he feels very confidently, if you go there, whatever purposes you are thinking in your mind, that will be accomplished. So he says the forest will be very, very delightful. Maithili will take great delight there. She will be very happy there. River Godavari flows there. There will be abundant tubers, fruits, various birds, and Ramachandra, your heart will feel very content. That entire area is very, very appealing. And he says that it's a lovely valley. There is the great 5 banyan trees, the Panchavati area where you can take rest, and you can build a hermitage there and you can settle down for the next few years. Okay. So they decide to move towards Panchavati, which is a few yojanas away. So while they are walking towards Panchavati, at that time, when they see that banyan tree, on top of the banyan tree, suddenly they see a very big eagle, very big vulture. There was a huge vulture, and that vulture, looking at the size of that humongous vulture, immediately Ram and Lakshman, they think that this is actually not on, actually the vulture was not on top of a tree or something. It was lying somewhere, okay? So Ram, Lakshman and Sita, they spot this huge vulture that is really big. Seeing the size of that vulture, they think this is not an ordinary vulture. It should be a demon. So thinking that it is a demon, Ramachandra goes, aiming his arrows, and he tells, oh, vulture, are you a demon? You have to tell who you are. Tell us who you are. At that time, the vulture, very, very softly, with very soft words, he calls out, hey, Vatsarama, oh child Rama, don't you know me? I am the friend of your father, and my name is Jatayu. Okay. So he identifies himself, and he begins to tell about his entire ancestry, who he is, how he was born, how Jatayu was born. So to understand the birth of Jatayu, we have to understand Kashyapa Prajapati's family lineage. So you all know that there was a Prajapati. Prajapatis are progenitors, meaning they are in charge of populating the world with different species or different kinds of living entities. So Prajapati Kashyapa, like you all know, there is Kardama Prajapati. He was the husband of Mother Devahuti. So like that, there is one more Prajapati by the name Kashyapa. From Srimad Bhagavatam, those who have heard and read Srimad Bhagavatam, you know from Kashyapa Prajapati's different wives, the different species of life came into existence into this universe. So now, specifically, the Vaivasvata Manu time population is mentioned here. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will read how the world was populated during Chakshush Manvantara. You will hear about Swayambhuva Manvantara and you will hear about Chakshusha Manvantara. What is a Manvantara? Manvantara is a reign of Manu. There are 14 Manvantaras in one day of Brahma. So we are currently in the Vaivasvata Manvantara. And Srimad Bhagavatam speaks about the Manvantaras, the bygone ages as well, like that of Chakshush Manvantara, Tamas Manvantara, like the different Manvantaras and the incarnations that appeared at that time, and the different personalities who were ruling the world at that time, all that is mentioned. Okay. So now here the explanation will be a little different. So it might be a little confusing. Okay. But here what happens is, according to this narration in the Ramayana, it is mentioned that Kashyap Prajapati appears from Brahma himself. if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, Kashyap from Brahma comes Marichi, and from Marichi comes Kashyapa. That's how we read. But here, Kashyap Prajapati is directly coming from Brahma because all the Prajapatis in one sense are coming from Brahma. So this Kashyapa, in this particular episode, he accepts 8 daughters of Daksha Prajapati. So you all know Daksha as well. So he accepts the 8 daughters of Daksha, who are Aditi, Diti, Danu, Kalaka, Tamra, Krodhavasha, and also Manu and Anala. Here, Manu is a wife of Kashyapa. That's why the difference, you can obviously make out. In Swayambhuva Manvantara, what happened? How did human beings come into existence? Manu and Shatarupa, they came from Brahma. They were the first man and woman, and then they were responsible for populating this world with human beings. Correct? That's how we read, according to Swayambhuva Manvantara. But here, Manu is Manu Devi. She is actually one of the wives of Kashyapa. From the one of the wives of Kashyapa by the name Manu Devi, all the human beings come into existence. So it's kind of different and it's interesting. So we will go through this entire lineage that our Jatayu was mentioning. So he says Kashyapa had 8 wives, and they were all the daughters of Daksha Prajapati. They were Aditi Diti, very famous, you all know Aditi Diti. Danu, you all know Danu. Danu is the mother of the Danavas. Kalaka, Tamra, Krodavasha, and Manu and Anala. So these are the different wives. Of course, Aditi gave birth to the 12 Adityas, who are the sun gods, the Ashtavasus, the 11 Rudras, the Ashwins, and so on. That is the 33 key demigods. And the family of the 33 key demigods become the 33 million demigods that we hear of. 33 crore demigods. Yeah, we say 33 crore demigods are there, right? Who are the 33 crore demigods? They are all Adityas. They are all sons of Aditi Devi. Then Diti Devi, she gives birth to all the Daityas who are the demons. Danu Devi, she gives birth to Ashwagriva, also called as Hayagriva, he's a demon, and Kalaka, who gave birth to Naraka and Kalaka. Okay. Then Tamra gave birth to the 5 world-renowned girls, namely Kraunchi, Bhasi, Sheni, Dhritarashtri, and Shuki. Remember this Sheni, okay? She will continue to come. So what did we see so far? We saw the children of Aditi Devi. We saw the children of Diti and Danu. This is usually very clear. We know Adityas, Daityas, and Danavas. There's no confusion there. But this Tamra, she gives birth to 5 daughters. The 5 daughters are Kraunchi, Bhashi, Sheni, Dhritarashtra, and Shuki. Why are these important? Because they're going to give birth to different species. Now, okay, from each of the 5 daughters of Tamra in turn emanated other flying bird species where Kraunchi gave birth to the Ullukas. Ullukas are the owls. Okay, Kraunchi gives birth to the owls. Bhashi gives birth to bhashas and vultures. Shieni gave birth to eagles, falcons, and other kinds of vultures. And Dhritarashtra gave birth to swans and other graceful birds. So what happened? From Tamra and her daughters, different varieties of birds came into existence. Dhritarashtra also gave birth to Chakravaka water birds, and Shuki gave birth to a daughter Nata, and Nata's daughter is Vinata. Okay. Now, Krodashva, who's one of the other wives, she gave birth to 10 of her self-same daughters like Mrigi, Mrigamanda, Hari, Brahmarmanda, Matangi, Sharduli, Shweta, Surabhi, and like that to Surasa, who's embodied with all sorts of giftedness. The children of Mrigi, this Krodashva, remember the one of the wives of this Kashyap Prajapati? Krodashva, one of her daughter by the name Mrigi, she gave birth to all the deers. Okay, that's why we say Mruga means generally. In Sanskrit, Mriga means animal, but generally, direct meaning of Mriga is always deer. First meaning you should take is of deer. Okay, Mriga means generally deer. But in a generic way, we say all animals are Mriga. Okay, specifically, Mrigi gave birth to deers. Mrigamanda's progeny are the bears. And then you have the different kinds of antelopes and yak species that came from all of these daughters. Then Brahmanda gave birth to a girl named Airavati. Her son is the great elephant Airavata. Hari's offspring are the lions and monkeys, while Sharduli gave birth to baboons and tigers. Matangi's children are elephants, and Shweta gave birth to 8 elephants that are the Diggajas in the world. And Surabhi gave birth to 2 daughters. One is named as Rohini, and the other is named as Gandharvi. Okay, Rohini is the one who gives birth to cows and other livestock, while Surasa gave birth to Nagas, the many-headed serpents, while Kadru gave birth to ordinary serpents. Then Anala gave birth to fruit-bearing trees, and Vinata, who is the daughter of Shuki, and Kadru, who is the sister of Surasa. About them, if you hear, Kadru gave birth to 1,000-headed serpent, who is the bearer of this earth, who is Sesha, and Vinata had 2 sons, Garuda and Aruna. So even in our other Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata and other places also, we directly read that Kashyapa's wife was Vinata. That's how we read. We read Kashyapa's wife was Vinata, and Vinata gives birth to Garuda and Aruna. So Aruna, you all know, is the charioteer of the sun god, because he was in Amarchitra Katha and other stories. You all must have read these stories. How Vinata, when she gives birth to, she has 2 eggs. Kadru gives birth to many serpents, hundreds and thousands of serpents. But Vinata, she gives birth to Garuda and Aruna. She has 2 eggs. But she's very, very curious why her egg was not hatching. So she breaks the first egg before it is completely formed, before the bird is completely formed. So what happens? The first bird who is born, below his thighs, there is nothing that is existing because he is not fully formed. So he is known as Anuru. Uru means thigh. Anuru means without a thigh. And because he was broken from that eggshell very quickly and his body was not completely formed, he was very reddish. He was a premature kid. So he came to be known as Aruna. Aruna means one who's reddish. Okay, and then because he doesn't get a job anywhere, apparently he has nothing below his thighs. So the sun god accepts him and says, "You become my charioteer. Just sit on the chariot and keep driving me." So he becomes the charioteer of the sun god, Aruna. That's why we say when the sun is just coming up, the sky is all reddish, Aruna. We say Aruna is the color of reddishness. So that is Aruna. And Aruna's brother is Garuda. Garuda is the carrier of Vishnu. So that is Garuda. Now, Aruna and Garuda, they are coming from Vinata. But Jatayu and Sampati also come in the same lineage. Okay. Actually, the relationship between Garuda and Jatayu Sampati is that Garuda is the uncle of Sampati and Jatayu. Okay, Garuda is their uncle actually. So like that, they are all coming in the same dynasty. So from Aruna comes 2 sons who are Sampati and this vulture Jatayu. So this Aruna and Garuda are brothers. Aruna's 2 sons are Sampati and Garuda, and they all come through the dynasty of Sheni. So they're also called as the descendants of Sheni. So like this, he gives us entire history and also about how the world was populated by different species. At this time also, there is the mention of the wife by the name Manu. Manu gives birth to all the human species, and the human species are of 4 categories: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. All of them have one ancestor, one mother, who is Manu Devi, according to this series of the Ramayana. And in the commentary, I read that in the Valmiki Ramayana book that is published by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas here in ISKCON, I read that it is specifically for the Vaivasvata Manvantara. Because in other Manvantaras, we see a different kind of equation that actually flows through. Some changes are there. Others are quite straightforward, like Diti, Aditi, and Danu are always quite standard. It doesn't change much. But some of the other wives, we see they were probably not direct wives. They were wife of the wife of somebody else who was born from one of these mothers, something like that. So little changes you will find. Anyway, so this Jatayu, he introduces himself to Lord Ramachandra, and he tells Ramachandra that I can be of help to you. I can travel with you. I can come with you to wherever you're going to settle down. And he specifically makes an offer. He says, I can take care of Sita when you and Lakshman go out. He makes the specific offer. Okay. And Raghava was very, very happy when Jatayu spoke like this. He embraces Jatayu because he understands Jatayu is a very close friend of his father, Dasharath. So he embraces Jatayu. He accepts his, services, and they all proceed together. All of them proceed together to Panchavati. So Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, and Jatayu, the four of them, they proceed towards Panchavati together. That is what is mentioned. Now, once they reach Panchavati, of course, Jatayu has gone into the woods, and as a bird, he's just hanging around in the woods. But Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, they had to settle down in a place. They had to build a cottage, and they had to settle down in a place in Panchavati area. So Ramachandra, he tells Lakshman, I think we have reached the location. So now you can decide where exactly you want to build the cottage. Ensure that you find a place which will be likable by Vaidehi, by Sita Devi, and that is also there, which is very scenic, which is very pleasurable, which is near lakes, and also where we can find firewood to perform yajnas and flowers for worship and so on. So try to find a good location, and we'll have to build an ashram there. So when Ramachandra tells Lakshman like this, find a good place of your choice and build an ashram. Lakshman tells Rama, why are you punishing me like this? So one may wonder, why is Lakshmana talking like that? Because he's the one who's always serving the Lord. When the Lord is giving him a service, he's telling the Lord, why are you punishing me? The reason he says that is because Lakshman says, I am always your dependent servant. I don't take decisions. You have to give me order. Lakshmana, build a hut here. It is your job. You have to just order me and I will carry out the service. How can you tell me, find a nice place of your choice that is suitable for Vaidehi and me, and then that is beautifully decorated with river and where there is tubers and so on to build a hut there? You should give me an order. I am a servant. You should not tell me that find a choice of your place, your desire. There's no question of my desire. A servant doesn't have independent desires. Don't say do it your way. Rather, you order do it my way. That is what Lord Ramachandra. That's what Lakshman he tells Ramachandra. And Lakshman he asks Ramachandra to actually show the exact location according to his liking. And Rama, he looks around and he finds a very beautiful place. He shows that place to Lakshman and he says, see, you see this place here, river Godavari is flowing very nicely. There are beautiful trees. There are beautiful mountains. I see lots of beautiful deers and other animals, peacocks, birds, and so on. The mountains are filled with different mines. It appears that this place is very holy. So, Lakshmana, let us settle down here. And Jatayu will also, it will also be comfortable for Jatayu to hover around in this place. It looks extremely beautiful. So, let us settle down here. Having said that, Lakshman, now he begins to build the hermitage. How he builds the hermitage is actually heavily commented on. So Ramachandra, he sits with Sita Devi in a nice place and they are spending some time. While Lakshman says, I will take care of this building of the cottage, you go and relax. And Lakshmana begins to build a beautiful cottage. And when he's building this cottage, he ensures that there are strong pillars with bamboo trunks. There are branches of shalmali trees that are spread out, and he finds lots of twines of jute strands, and he nicely weaves them together to create a good roof, to get a thatched hut feeling. And then he ensures that the cottage is very, very spacious with many rooms. And the area where he's building the cottage has a nice leveled surface. So very, very artistically, he builds a beautiful cottage that is very spacious. And then after building that beautiful cottage, he goes to the river Godavari and he takes a bath and he collects lotuses, fruits, flowers, and so on. And he comes here and they begin to make invocation, prayers before entering into the house. Like, remember, even the first time they built a small hut, they did a small griha pravesham and then they entered the house. So, like that, they started creating a very, very beautiful griha pravesham before they could enter the cottage. And after it was done, and Lord Ramachandra entered that cottage, he was so amazed at the beauty of that cottage. And he speaks a very beautiful verse, also a very famous verse. He says, Bhavajnena kritajnena dharmajnena cha lakshmana tvaya putrena dharmatmana samvrita pitamama. He says, Bhavajnena kritajnena dharmajnena cha lakshmana. Bhavajnena, that means understanding my heart, understanding the bhav that I have. You didn't ask me specifically how the cottage should be built. You didn't ask me how many rooms it should have, whether Sita and me should have a private quarters. You didn't ask all that. But understanding my heart, you ensured that the cottage is built very, very nicely with private rooms and private areas to sit. Bhavagnena. Even without me expressing my feelings, you could understand my feelings. Kritagnena. Here, Kritagnena specifically mentions skill. Okay, Lakshman was very skillful in the activity, just like his father Dasharath. He was just reflecting the qualities of his father Dasharath. So Kritagnena, he knew what is correct and he built it accordingly. And Dharmagnena. Dharmagnena here means three things. Lakshman was following the dharma of being a servant, okay, the dharma of being a younger brother, and finally the dharma of being the perfect devotee to please the Lord. So, just like how a servant would please his master, just like how a younger brother would always please his older brother, and just like how a jiva, a living entity, would yearn to please the Supreme Lord, like that, dharmagnena, kritagnena, and bhavagnena, like that, Lakshmana had built this beautiful cottage. For the pleasure of Lord Ram alone. It was not for his pleasure, because Lakshman already he mentioned, why are you telling this to me? You know, why are you breaking my heart? Don't tell, do it as per your convenience or do it as per your desire. Tell me that it should be done in a particular way and I will do it as per your desire, right? That's what Lakshman said. So understanding the mood of his brother, he built a very beautiful cottage. And Ramachandra in the second half of the verse, he says, Tvaya putrena dharmatma na samvritaha pita mama. Lakshmana, I have not lost my father. Instead, I'm... One second. Sorry. Instead, I am seeing you as my father today. Just like how my father would have taken care of his son very nicely, like that, you are taking care of me. He tells Lakshman, I'm not missing my father today. My father is not dead because he is present as you. Maybe your father is dead and gone, he tells Lakshman. Your father, Dasharath, is gone. But my father, you are there because with so much love and affection, with this bhav, with this kritagnya, and with this dharma, you know, in your mind, you have actually built this cottage. So my father is not dead. Indeed, he is present as you in front of me. So Like this, Ramachandra, he feels very, very happy and he glorifies Lakshman. And then the three of them, they enter the cottage and they begin to stay there very, very happily. Now, there is a description of the Hemanta Ritu in the Ramayana. Just like how in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you would find the description of different seasons, right? Different seasons. You know, Heat also you see the spring season in Vrindavan, you see all these different seasons. Like that in the Ramayana, there is a description of the Hemanta Ritu. So Ram and Lakshman, they were spending their winter time, pre-winter time. Okay, it's not full winter, but it is pre-winter. So they were spending their time there. This comes after the rainy season, but before the full-blown winter, the season comes Hemanta. And they would go out to the Godavari to take a bath. And that one day, Lakshman was glorifying the beauty of that place. So he told, oh, this Hemanta season, there is so much dew. Dew settles on the body of people. And the earth is overladen with crops. The water is so pleasant. And in fact, actually, the water is a little cold. And the fire is actually giving a lot of warmth right after a good bath. The Himalayan mountain is becoming slowly laden with snow. There are paddy crops that are gleaming with a golden luster. The entire place looks very, very beautiful, filled with fruits. During the daytime, it is looking very pretty, this entire place. While he's describing the beauty of Hemanta Ritu, at that time, Lakshman, he remembers Bharata. He starts thinking, oh, Bharata should also be living in a forest because he's staying in Nandigram. He's also not in the kingdom. Bharata should also be experiencing Hemanta Ritu at this point in time. But he's practicing austerities, just thinking about you. And I am missing Bharata today. So he says, looking at the beauty of that place, he says, I miss Bharata today. But I'm just thinking how difficult it will be for Bharat to lie down on a chilly surface. Um, Lakshman, he understands that Bharat has not taken up any luxuries at all, and he would be lying down on the floor directly. And he's thinking of his brother, thinking how difficult it should be for him. From time to time, he has to go to the Sarayu River to perform austerities, and there, Sarayu would be colder at this time. So he's thinking it will be so difficult for Bharat to get into the cold waters of Sarayu because, of course, Ayodhya was even further north, right? So it would have become colder there. And he describes the beauty of Bharata, saying that he's got lotus petal like eyes, he's dark blue in complexion, he's the knower of all dharma, he's self restrained, he is very dexterous in all his activities. And in spite of having all these great qualities, still being very devoted to you, he's taken up all these voluntary austerities and he must be suffering there. Even though you are far away from him, Rama, he's constantly thinking about you. He's waiting when you will return. So, like this, Lakshmana was trying to remind Ramachandra that Bharata is still suffering in separation from us. It's high time we return. 14 years should get over fast. You should finish all your duties and we should go back soon. And while he's glorifying Bharat like that, thinking about how much difficulty Bharat would be undergoing, suddenly he's reminded of Bharata's mother. And he says, actually, our brother Bharat is an exception. Generally, boys, they take the quality of their mother. Girls, they take the quality of their father. But it is interesting how Bharata didn't take up the qualities of Kaikeyi, who's very cruel in nature. So now Lakshman, he starts speaking about Kaikeyi. And at that time, Ramchandra stops him and he says, don't talk about Kaikeyi like that. You just glorify Bharat. That is enough. I don't want to hear any extra talk about Kaikeyi or, her blasphemy or whatever. Just keep telling me about the topics of Bharat. That is very, very pleasing to my heart. So like that, Ramachandra, he tells Bharata, he tells Lakshman, I am also yearning to see Bharata very soon. I'm just waiting for that moment when I can reunite with all my four brothers together along with Sita. So like that, Rama, he says, I'm also waiting for that moment. Then they reach, like that, they go ahead, they reach Godavari, they perform their bathing and they talk about their brothers and they have a nice time and they go back to their hermitage. So, like this, 3 more years pass by. Okay. Initially, what did we say? 10 years passed by, along with the sages, Sharabhanga, Sutikshana, and others. 10 years passed by. Now, 3 more years pass by in the region of Panchavati. Again, it is Chaitra Mas. So keep track of the seasons, keep track of their days and all that from time to time. I'll keep telling what tithi, what month, how many years, and then we'll calculate the return of Lord Ram. Okay. So now it was again the Chaitra Mas. Chaitra Mas is very important in Ramayana. Every key event will be in Chaitra Mas. Okay. So now it was back to April, March, April time, Chaitra Mas. And at that day, one fine day, maybe one fateful day, not a one fine day, while Ramachandra was sitting in the hermitage and he was talking about different stories of different sages with Ram and Lakshman. At that day, one terrible, terrible demon has appeared on the scene. Who is she? सा तु शूर्पणखा नाम दशग्रीवस्य राक्षस भगिनी रामम् असाध्य ददर्श त्रिदश उपमम्. Who is she? She is the sister of Dashagriva. Who's Dashagriva? The 10-headed demon Ravana. What is her name? Her name is Shurpanaka. Satu Shurpanaka Nama. And she saw Ram like a divine personality. Tridasha Upamam. She saw Ramachandra with his beauty, the sister of Ravana, Bhagini of whom? This Rakshasa, Dashagriva. So Shurpanaka, who is the sister of Dashagriva Ravana, saw this beautiful being who was looking like as if he just jumped from the heaven. And who's that personality that she saw? She saw Ramachandra. How was Ramachandra looking to her? His face was radiant. His arms were lengthy, touching the knees. His eyes were very large and beautifully formed like lotus petals. His walk was like the stride of an elephant. He was wearing bunches of hair tuft, because he had put latex and he had matted his hair. He was very delicate. His arms were looking very delicate, yet it was looking very powerful and vigorous. He had a complexion of dark blue, like a blue lotus, and he looked like Cupid in person standing in front of her. Looking at the beauty of Ram, Shurpanaka, first sight love, she became lovesick. And Valmiki, at this point in time, he decides that he wants to bring in some hasya rasa, a little bit of cynical humor, sarcastic humor, you can say, because he makes a funny comparison between Ramachandra and the lady who fell in love with Rama, who is Shurpanaka. So how is Shurpanaka? How is Rama? So within one verse, he brought in the contrasting qualities of Shurpanaka and Lord Ramachandra. So Valmiki says, Sumukham Durmukhi Ramam Vrittamadyam Mahodari Visalaksham Virupakshi Sukesham Tamramurthaja Priyarupam Virupasa Suswaram Bhairavaswana Tarunam Daruna Vritta Dakshinam Vamabhashini Nyaya Vrittam Suduvritta Priyam Apriyadashana Shashiraja Samavishta Rakshasi Ramam Abravit Sumukam Durmukhi Ramam Sumukam. Sumukam means one who is very, very pleasant faced, right? Sumukam, very beautiful. Dhurmukhi. Who's Dhurmukhi? Shurpanaka was Dhurmukhi. Her face was not at all looking good. Vritta Madhyam Mahodhari. So Vritta Madhyam, Lord Ramachandra was slim-waisted. Ramachandra's waist was very slim. According to Samudrika Lakshanam, they say that the waist should be very thin. The hips can be broad, the chest can be broad, but the waist, like we talk about hourglass figure, right? Hourglass figure. So that Ramachandra's waist was very thin. But then, how was Shurpanaka's waist? Mahodari. She was pot-bellied. Vishalaksham Virupakshi. Lord Ramachandra's eyes were Visalaksha, very broad and beautiful, like a lotus petal. But Shurpanaka's eyes were round, Virupaksha, and a little disoriented, something like squinted. It was like that. Sukesham Tamramurdhaja. Lord Ramachandra's hair was very soft, Sukesham, very, very smooth and soft. And how was Shurpanaka's hair? Tamramurdhaja. Tamra Murdaja means coppery hair. So today it's a fashion to go and dye our hair red color and brown color. But Tamra Murdaja is considered very awkward in those days. It was not a very pleasant thing to have. So it was very dry, rough, and coppery. Priyarupam Virupasa. Ramachandra is always Priyarupam. When you see him itself, you feel so nice. It's very pleasing to see. Virupa. She was not at all looking nice. Her Rupa was not at all nice. Suswaram Bhairavaswana. Ramachandra, when he speaks, it is Suswara, very, very soft spoken and very musical tone Ramachandra has. But Shurpanaka Bhairavaswana. She doesn't have a nice, it's like as if she's doing Garjan, as if she's roaring. That's the kind of voice she has. Nyayavrittam Suduvritta. So Lord Ramachandra was of a good age. At this point in time, Lord Ramachandra was almost like 38, 40. Around that age, he'll be at this time, 38 maybe. And Shurpanaka, according to some poets, of course, this is not there in the Valmiki Ramayana, it is from other poets. They say that this was the 13th Treta Yuga for Shurpanaka. That's how old she was. But that is more of a poetic thing, poetic understanding, just to tell that Ramachandra was looking very young. Even at the age of 38, he was looking like a 16-year-old. But this Shurpanaka, she was quite old by now, and she was looking like as if she had lived for 13 Treta Yugas. So Priyam Apriya Darshana. Ramachandra was looking very nice, well-mannered, while this Shurpanaka was not at all looking good. Shariraja Samavrishta Rakshasi Ramam Apravit. So this abominable one who was looking terrible, looking at the beautiful Rama, who's so amiable, she began to speak to him because she was struck with love. Okay. So what did she speak to him? What did she tell him? She said, "Oh, you look like a person who's performing austerities. You look like a hermit, an ascetic, but still you're holding bow and arrows. You have the appearance of a sage, but then you have come like a Kshatriya. What is the purpose of you lingering around in this forest? So tell me exactly who you are." So like that, Shurpanaka, she asks Ram to inform him about himself. At that time, Lord Ramachandra, who only speaks the truth, he says, "There is a king by the name of Dasharath, and I am his eldest son, and people call me Rama." And he introduces, he says, "This is Lakshmana, and he's a very devoted follower of mine, and he's my brother, and this is Vaidehi, the daughter of the Videha's king, and she's known as Sita." So immediately, Lord Ramchandra, without any reservations, he always speaks the truth. He spontaneously said the truth. And it is also mentioned Ramchandra didn't want to hide anything at this point in time because he always felt it is better to tell the truth than feel sorry later. So he just openly said, "Okay, I am Rama. I am the son of the great king Dasharath. And because we were exiled to the forest, Rama, myself, Lakshmana, and Sita, we all have come into this forest." But then Rama immediately asks her, because he knows if he tells the truth, obviously Shurpanaka is also going to reveal the truth. So he tells, "Okay, so now I wish to know who you are. Whose wife are you? What is your name? Whose daughter are you? By the way, you have such an enthralling personality. So I think you should be a demoness." This is what Ramachandra says. And when Rama asks her like that, immediately Shurpanaka also says, I will also tell you the truth. Because she understood Ram is telling the truth, so I will also tell you the truth. So she says, I am a guise changing demoness by the name Shurpanaka, and I freely move around in the solitary forest. You know who my brother is? My brother is the great Ravana, who's the king of all the demons. He's the son of Vishrava. I'm sure you must have heard about him. And the mighty Kumbhakarna is also my brother. He's very fond of sleeping and eating. Besides that, there is this Dharmatma by the name Vibhishan. He's also my brother, but he's not fit to be a part of our family because he doesn't behave like a demon. And besides that, I have my half brothers, Karadushan, who stay close by in this area and they rule this forest. Actually, though I come from such a great lineage and I have such brave brothers, I can excel all of them in my bravery. And Rama, seeing you immediately, I'm struck with love. I think you are the best of all men, and I am the best of all women. So I have come to you. With that, with Shurpanaka making her first proposal, we will stop and we will meet again next week and discuss the conversation between them and how Shurpanaka's nose and ears were chopped off, and then the fight with Karadoshan, which is actually a very beautiful episode, and the reports that go to Ravan. And I don't know if we'll finish kidnapping of Sita next week. Maybe we will. We will stop at the kidnapping of Sita. Okay. So we will stop here. Any questions, comments, realizations, additions, corrections?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam. Very, very wonderful session as usual. Very absorbing. I have two questions, Mataji. One is about this Shupnaka. So she came in her original form in front of Rama, or she disguised herself as a beautiful woman? Because
Okay.
Valmiki described as an ugly.
Yeah, described as ugly, direct. In some TV serials I have seen, she comes as a, suddenly she changes her form and all that, right?
Even Tulsidas ji says that she changes her form.
You're
Okay, she.
right. It just mentions, she herself says, I'm a guest changing demons. So, but there's no mention that she has changed her form in one.
And my another question is that when Lord Ram was going through and meeting all the sages, did Valmiki mentions that Lord Ram met Valmiki also during that exile period? Or he didn't meet Valmiki at all?
No, we saw no old when like 3 4 classes before he meets there's Valmiki ashram, not in Tamasa River, in another place. When Ram enters, right? That time itself we saw after Bharadwaj ashram. That time itself we saw.
That time he saw Valmiki.
That time he saw near. It was not near River Tamasa. It was near River after Bharadwaj ashram, I think.
But at that time, nowhere it's mentioned that Valmiki is writing Ramayana or.
No, no, no.
No, 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 no.
Valmiki writes only after Sita is left, after Uttarakandam. Only that time he begins to write. That is very clear. It is mentioned in Uttarakandam. Even the first verse commentary also, Tapaswadhyaya Nirata commentary itself, it's very clear. Valmiki did start writing.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Krishna Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. Very nice, beautiful. So I have a question that in Agastya Muni's ashram, he's doing so many, he has so many yagya kundas where he's performing yagyas for all these demigods, like all these different devatas. So I was wondering, what is the ultimate purpose that these rishis and these munis and all these sages are trying to achieve in the woods, in the forest, when they are there doing tapasya? What are they trying to? What is their ultimate aim? Like we know in bhakti, we want prema and we want that loving relationship with the Lord. But what is their ultimate purpose? What are they after?
Okay, that was a difficult question to answer. Time, place, and yuga. There is a lot of difference in the path of achieving the topmost goal. The path taken on the age of Kali is chanting the holy names, and through the process of bhakti and sharanagati, you chant the holy names and you attain perfection and you get love of God, or you attain moksha or liberation or go back to Godhead or whatever you want to call it. Right? That is the path prescribed for the age of Kali. In the Treta Yuga, the path prescribed was fire sacrifices. They had to perform fire sacrifices in certain formats. So those fire sacrifices were not like very straightforward, like, okay, chant Hare Krishna mantra and get back to Godhead. It's not like that. These fire sacrifices had certain procedures and they had to go through certain steps. You have to do some sacrifices. You have to conduct, every grihastha had to do that panchasuno, different kinds of yajnas, all that was recommended. So depending on the varna and ashram, they had certain rules and regulations, certain austerities that they had to perform. They also had to perform fire sacrifices. But at the same time, they would attain perfection through these processes. But attaining perfection is the same, going back to Godhead. That is there. That is the perfection. But they would take a different methodology to attain perfection. That's all.
Okay, thank you for that. But the thing is that when we see that, what was I thinking? Okay, I'll come back. I think someone else has something
No.
to say. Okay, I'll come back. Thank you.
Career devotees, anyone else has any question?
Pranam Mataji, Haribha.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a question regarding Jatayu, how he had a friendship with Dasarath Maharaja. Is there any episode like that where it mentions how this happened?
Yeah, I've not heard the episode at all actually so far. He just says I'm my old friend. That's
Also, being a vulture, he was so fortunate that he was cremated by Lord Ram himself. So this must have kind of some interesting story behind that. But anyway.
yes, vulture, demon, they all get mercy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mata. Hariva.
Okay, I remembered, Mataji, I remembered my question. So, in one of the episodes, you talked about how one of the rishis, he created all these great feast for all the, when Bharata came with all the Ayodhya Vasis, and he created this grand feast. And, so I'm thinking, first of all, you're in the forest, you're doing austerity, living on bark, on fruits and roots, and I mean, and then you have the capacity to do this great thing that you can, out of nowhere, just create a great feast. So that's what was confusing to me, that like they are doing austerity, but like you said, I understand that, the austerity in that Treta Yoga was not as it is today, that you just chant Hare Krishna. So I understand that, but I'm still not very clear what was like, their capacity so much they can create things like, this great magic they can create, but yet look at how much austerity they are taking on. So that is a very funny thing that I cannot understand.
Yes, to create that magic, they had to go through that austerity. Like we saw in the story of Vishwamitra, right? Remember, we were seeing the story of Vishwamitra, and there every time he would gather so much austerity, he would waste his powers on trivial things. You were hearing that, right? Like in Balakand. So he would do one thing, just send one guy to what is that?
Trishanku.
Shankhu, and he lost all his powers. It came down to. So this is what happens. So to gather one power, you have to undergo so many austerities, and then you lose it like anything.
Yeah, so it seems to me that when when we do something very extreme, like what they are doing, extreme austerity, they will attract demons, because the demons, obviously, like we know in the world of duality, the opposites attract, So if you are very pure, then you will attract the very impure,
Yeah.
It seems
That's
like that.
true. It seems
Yeah.
like that. Yes. And that's why they, from time to time, they need protection and they go and, ask, because with their powers, in one curse, they can actually diminish all the demons. But then what's the use? Everything goes off again. So yes, that's why they seek the help of the Lord. And yeah, it goes on like that. And a lot of them also do this for, as a matter of their Varna and Ashram, they also perform these for the well-being of all the living entities. Like you see in Bhagavatam, in the beginning, the sages of Naimisharanya, they are performing 1,000-year sacrifice. For what? To mitigate the ill effects of the age of Kali on all living entities. So for Loka Kalyan, they just want the world to be, that is their job. They think it's their job. So they do it for the benefit of all living entities, but then it's of no use. And then we see that in the age of Kali, all this doesn't work. So just hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the prelude to the Bhagavatam, right? So,
Yes, that's true. But yeah, like you said, that these sages make many mistakes, like repeatedly in Srimad Bhagavatam. Saubhari Muni, after so many years of tapasya, falls for, oh, I need to go and have a wife, and not one wife, so many wives. And then, look at Yayati Maharaj, he goes and takes his own son's youth and, wants to enjoy, so it's quite interesting that we are supposed to look up to these great people who are Brahmins, great sages. Look at the standard they are showing. They are not living up to the standard that we are wanting, we are thinking of them, So that is.
Yeah, just to add to that, the point is they have very high standards, and one tiny mistake, right? One tiny mistake they have to pay off so heavily. But we do so many mistakes, and still we are not paying off the way they are actually paying off. Okay, that is one thing. They do one small mistake, of course. We do those mistakes day in and day out. But when they do the mistake, it looks very prominent because a person who has so much austerity, a person who is in such a responsible position is making a mistake. That is what we are seeing, correct? So sometimes, like this, look at the story of Indra. Indra is always seen in a bad light. He's always making the mistake. He's always misbehaving with somebody, something or the other. He goes and he makes an offense. But we are not seeing the other side of Indra. Indra is a great devotee. Oh, that's why Krishna has chosen him to be Indra, and he's the brother of the Lord. Who can be the direct brother of the Lord? Imagine interacting with the Lord on a regular basis. He's actually a great personality, and that's why God has given him that control. But then one small mistake he makes, he has to pay off so heavily. I mean, you may say, okay, it's not a small mistake, it's a big mistake. So it works both ways. So the world is, through these stories, they are telling us that first and foremost thing, even great personalities are not in the mode of pure goodness. Okay, they are all affected by the modes of Rajas, Tamas, and all these different modes of material nature are acting even on great entities. So if they can do these mistakes, then what to talk about you? They are the ones who have attained such great positions. They are very close to the Lord and still they are able to do such terrible mistakes. Then what to talk about you? You're continuously doing mistakes. That is, we living entities, like human beings. We are doing so many mistakes and mistake after mistake after mistake in every birth. So it's,
Yes.
yeah, we have to learn. Yeah, there are different ways the way Bhagavatam teaches. One is like, yeah, learn from them, see how they suffer. So you also don't keep doing that mistake. That is one way. And yeah, that's one way of learning.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that whether you're a demigod or your sages or whoever, uh, you will have to pay for your mistakes. Like, in some form or the other, the sort of punishment or correction will come,
It
and
will.
sometimes it comes from their own reflection. They realize, oh, I made a mistake, they themselves realize that, but see,
Yeah.
again, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is that one verse which even says that the great personalities, they are like fire that nothing actually touches them, like, so the things that they don't have to live up to the moral standards that we
And
have to. Yeah.
but they
So,
can just do one more austerity and get rid of that sin. We can't do
yeah.
that. Yes, that's true.
So yeah, I guess from Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand that, it's like you have to read between the lines. It's everything is not black and white. It's a lot of, there's like a lot of gray also. Like,
Gray. Actually, everybody in this conditioned life is gray. Yeah, nobody is fully good, fully bad. Yes. Okay.
Dear devotees, anyone else has any questions? Okay, Mataji, then we can end up.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us. So let's pay obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Sakal Pasindu Vaja.
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः।
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri ki jai ho.
Our grace Sri Mataji ki jai.
जय।
All glories
Jai.
to
Thank you so much. So we see you all next Monday.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I'm ending.